I'm Lena Bond, and these are your college football analysts, Tom Downey and James Yoder. We're now going to take it to our draft deadline winners and losers. A lot of big names leaving, a lot of big names staying, guys. So let's first take it to our deadline winners, and we're starting off with the biggest winner of them all, and that's the Clemson Tigers.
Clemson didn't keep everybody. They did lose Ray McLeod and Deion Kane and safety Van Smith, but Clelin Ferrel and Austin Bryant and Christian Wilkins all could have been first-round picks. I think Ferrel and Wilkins were going to be. They all came back. If Bryant improves, there is a real chance that next year's Clemson defensive line has 4 first-round picks on it. That is in the same year. That is unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, think about their front 7 next year. You know, with Kendall Joseph returning as well. I mean, the best offensive line in the country. I saw one publication, not Chat Sports, that changed their top 25 to put Clemson at number 1, their early top 25, just because of this defensive line. You say, hey, no one retained more talent. No one had as many surprise returns in the past few days. And because of that, if you put even 2 Heisman-level performances that a lot of people, including us, are projecting him to, this Clemson defensive line will be able to neutralize anything Alabama can do. So it's huge, and it can really change, I think, what we think about college football next year, because we have seen time and time again, mostly in the Alabama era, that a dominant all-time level defense can overcompensate any flaws you have in offense.
Look, it all depends on, of course, how they actually play, but this Clemson defensive line has the chance, I think, to be one of, if not the best defensive line we've ever seen in 1 year in college football.
That'd be amazing, yeah.
All right, Clemson coming in at the top of our draft deadline winners. Another winner is Ohio State. Now, they are losing their starting quarterback, J.T. Barrett, but they are keeping a lot of talent on both sides of the ball.
We've seen Ohio State year in and year out lose a bunch of talent, and for the most part in years past, James, but everyone that was reasonably drafted, or could be reasonably drafted, went pro. Denzel Ward and Hubbard were not surprises. But keeping Draymond Jones, maybe even Mike Weber and Paris Campbell, that was a surprise. So compared to years past, OSU kept more talent than it's used to.
It's got a lot more talent. I was surprised. I felt for a few years, really the last 3, it's like Urban Meyer just must have this system where he convinces guys to leave versus the opposite, because you've seen some guys, you're like, why would that guy leave? You've seen some questionable picks from there. It seems like their secondary and their skill positions on offense, and then I guess their D-line as well, get hit up non-stop with early entries. And every single year they're starting, 3 sophomores or 3 juniors or redshirt sophomores in the secondary, and then they've always got a new receiving core. They've always got a new tailback. And so this is a big change for them. So the only real flaw I see in this Ohio State team next year is the question mark at quarterback after basically living in J.T. Barrett's world for the past 4 years. Yeah, for a decade, outside of the last 20 minutes versus Michigan, where they saw what Dwayne Haskins can do. So if Haskins lives up to the hype, if it's not him, if it's Tate Martell, I mean, Ohio State is going to have a phenomenal season next year. I expect them to take a step back next year because of that quarterback, and then I thought they were going to replace about 12, 13 starters. They're only going to replace about 7, 8, 9 starters. I'll have to get the exact number, but it's much less than we expected.
Yep.
All right, let's take a look at another draft deadline winner, and that is Stanford, and they are on this list for one reason, and that is Bryce Love.
It is Bryce Love. Stanford would have been an obvious loser had Bryce Love declared, because they already lost some notable defensive players, but Bryce Love getting back, when you return the Heisman Trophy favorite, how are you not a winner? I know that Stanford lost some guys, Harrison Phillips, Quentin Meeks, and Justin Reed on the defensive side of the ball, but you get back the Heisman Trophy frontrunner. Come on, you're a winner.
Yeah, I mean, Love, he better not do what Christian McCaffrey and Andrew Luck did before him, which is basically come off a Heisman Trophy runner-up season and not win it the next year. So Luck came back after a runner-up, was runner-up again, and then McCaffrey had a pretty off-and-on season his junior year at Stanford. He wasn't able to leave, of course, but he was a runner-up as a true sophomore. Did not live up to the hype as a junior. He had nowhere the season as a junior. So Love was under some pressure. We want to make sure he stays healthy. That's got to be the focus for Stanford next year. Whatever that takes in training or injury prevention in the offseason, they need to make sure they do that with him, because these are their offense. One other thing to consider, though, Tom, with Love, is the emergence of KJ Costello in the second half of the year. A lot of it, when Love was hurt, really gives Stanford an opportunity to have a much more high-powered offense and not just only rely on Love. So we might be saying Love is the Stanford offense halfway through the year. We might be like Love and Costello, one of the best 5 running back-quarterback combinations in college football.
I'd like to see Love get actually involved in passing, and that's my biggest concern about Bryce Love.
20 receptions last year, much later.
He was basically a non-factor. passing game.
Yep, absolutely.
All right, if you're just joining us, we are going over our NFL draft entry deadline winners and losers, and we are breaking down the winners as we speak. We just saw the Cardinal coming in. And let's take a look at Missouri now, and kind of similar to Stanford, they're basically on this list for one position, one player, and that is Drew Lock.
Drew Lock might have been one of the first 5 quarterbacks drafted had he gone pro. Now he comes back. He'll at least be in the discussion to be the first quarterback off the board next year. I don't know if he actually will be. But without Drew Lock, I think Missouri is a 2-win program, 3 wins. They're not very good. With Drew Lock, they're a bowl game caliber team.
Sure, one player coming back, and there's not a ton. There's never going to be a ton of winners in the NFL draft deadline thing because in the 5 teams, because it's so easy to get on this winner list because most guys are going pro these days. Tom, if you have the opportunity to go pro, if you're in the top 3 rounds, your agent, potential agent, your parents, your family, your teammates, your coaches, everyone's saying go pro. So to have a guy like Locke, to have Bryce Love, to really have anybody come back if they're a top 3, first, second day pick is rare, especially in the last 5 years or so.
Yeah, I think that the addition of Locke is really one of the bigger things Missouri's had as a program for quite a while because, well, I mean, not to be mean, but it is Missouri.
Hey, Toledo's pride of Toledo, Gary Pinkel, had them rolling for a while, Tom. So he stepped away from the game. Now they're struggling, but we'll see what Locke can do with Missouri next year. But they are, a draft deadline winner because of that his return.
All right, one last time, I'm Lena Bond, and these are your college football analysts, Tom Downey and James Yoder. Follow us on Twitter, and we are breaking down currently the draft deadline winners and losers. And the last name on our winners list are the Washington Huskies. Now, they are returning great quarterback Jake Browning and also a lot of talent on offense, specifically Myles Gaskin. That was a key one for them.
Jake Browning was, I think, a little bit expected because he doesn't have the same arm. He wouldn't have been a super high NFL draft pick, but getting Myles Gaskin back, that's what gets them on this list. He could have easily gone pro and been an NFL draft pick, especially at a position where you have a short shelf life. Instead, he's coming back for one more year. That makes the Browning-Gaskin combo one of the best quarterback wide receiver duos in all of college football.
Would Browning been drafted if he had gone, Tom?
I think he would have been drafted, but I don't think he would have gone that high. He's kind of slender overall as a quarterback, and I don't think the arm strength is really there.
He's a guy I thought would continue to go up as far as like the stature and the expectations of college football. His year in 2016 was so good. He didn't look like the same guy to me in 2017. Wonder if there's something going on there, injuries, whatever it was. But if he returns to 2016 fashion, I like what I see at Washington next year. But I don't know which Jake Browning I'm getting. The guy, true sophomore or last year's guy?
I haven't watched enough of his film overall, but he strikes me more as a West Coast backup quarterback.
Okay.
All right, Jake Browning, statistically one of the best high school quarterbacks to play the game. Let's continue on with our draft deadline losers now, guys. And on top of this loser list, and this is a team that's losing a lot of talent on defense, and that's the Texas Longhorns.
Malik Jefferson, probably going to be a second-round pick. Might sneak into the first. Deshaun Elliott, same boat, first or second. Holton Hill is a really talented player, too. You'll see Connor Williams go in the first round. Texas had some talent under Charlie Strong, but as you saw with the defense from last year to this year, wasn't anywhere near the same level of play once they got Tom Herman in. And overall, there are too many notable needs on that roster. But there's some talent for Texas. They just lose quite a bit off of what was a very good defense last year.
Surprising to see this many guys go early, Tom, from Texas, where after they had a subpar season. I mean, got blown up by Maryland in the first game of the year. Anything in your mind you think outside of just their pro aspirations? Is it the culture change from one coach to another, where they're just like, hey, I'm eligible, I'm out of here? Anything to that, or do these guys truly have NFL potential next season?
Oh, I think Connor Williams is going to be a first-round pick for sure. He is an incredible left tackle. Jefferson has always had talent. He never has quite capitalized on it. Sean Elliott had a great year for Texas. Holton Hill was almost cheating because he was kind of suspended for the rest of the season, and I think it was kind of like, maybe just go ahead and get out of here. But most of those guys on that list, it's talent.
Yep.
All right, up next on our draft deadline losers is LSU. Now, they're losing Darius Geis and Arden Key. Darius Geis counted for a lot of that Tiger offense last year, and Arden Key, a stud defensive lineman.
LSU, for whatever reason, churns guys out to the NFL, but they don't have that much success in college football. And this isn't even really their entire list. I think they're one of the biggest losers of all. Keith Tolliver, the cornerback, is also gone. Another offensive tackle has left as well. So LSU loses quite a bit of talent. And, of course, the big question around LSU overall is, who the hell is going to play quarterback for them? Because they got nothing there.
Yeah, I mean, Darius Geis, I'm interested to see what he did in the pro. He was compared positively to Leonard Fournette, who came into the NFL and did phenomenal as a rookie. One of the guys that helped me win my fantasy league, humble brag. And so Geis was a guy that there wasn't really no fall off when Fournette was hurt his junior year. Geis came in, and a lot of people said, okay, Geis could be an All-American level this year. I don't know if we ever saw as much of that as we expected, but as you said, Tom, other than Alabama and Ohio State, LSU is the third school that seems to lose a slew of guys, 6, 7, 5, and 8 guys every single year. Seems to reload pretty quickly. Running back and secondary are always the positions they get hit hardest at, but you've got another slew of freshmen, sophomores that are leaving early the next year that are right behind them. So I think they'll be okay. But remember, this isn't LSU under Les Miles with that 10-year train of success, but mostly recruiting success. I know he won a national championship, but I'm still waiting to see Edo, known recruiter, if he's going to get the same level of player development that Les Miles and before him Nick Saban got.
Mm-hmm. All right, up next we have the USC Trojans, and guys, they're basically losing everyone on offense. Darnold, gone. Ronald Jones, gone. Deontay Burnett, gone. I mean, what is this team even going to look like?
You're an obvious loser when I think you lose your 3 best offensive players and your 3 most important offensive players. Now, they've got some decent skill position players that they're going to be retained, although quarterback's a giant question mark. The good news for USC is they do have some key defensive players staying, but this is no Darnold, no Jones, no Burnett. That's a huge blow to USC. And I've got some overall concerns about their talent, especially when it comes to the offensive line. USC's defense, I think, will be good next year. I have massive concerns about their offensive output next year.
Tom, I think USC is a school that is going to completely fall off of the national radar over the next few years. You've got Chip Kelly coming in. We know what he can do. It's basically like if the Lakers got Kobe and Shaq, right, versus the Clippers, and that's kind of what UCLA is getting there.
They've got. Two, you mean?
What's
if
that?
The Clippers got Kobe and Shaq?
What did I say? Yeah, the Clippers. My bad. Yeah, my bad. Yeah. So the Clippers, the second fiddle team in the same city, got the big name free agent, the big name player, and right now UCLA, man, they are hot on the West Coast. Chip Kelly is an obviously no name. He's been in that conference, and USC, they're not outside Sam Darnold. There was such expectations of them this year. I know they won the Pac-12. They got blown out against Ohio State. Darnold wasn't everything that he was hyped up to, and now with Sark's players out the door, I think USC could also fall off the kind of perch that they are at with being a top 10 program for the past 15 years or so. We could see a steep decline. I don't know if they're not going to be a 6-6 team next year. I know some people still have them ranked in the top 20 in their early preseason polls, but I am not one of them that thinks USC is going to have a big year. Darnold hurts a lot. Jones hurts probably just as much.
All right, up next on our draft deadline losers, we got the Seminoles, and they're losing safety Derwin James and then the 6'5" wideout Auden Tate. Tom, what do you see this team looking like next year? They obviously have a new head coach, but losing some talent.
I mean, the big issue for Florida State is pretty much everyone notable that could have declared went ahead and declared. Derwin James was not a surprise. He's going to be a first-round pick. Tavares McFadden had a rough year, but that wasn't a huge surprise. Auden Tate was kind of a 50-50 guy. I thought he could have used another year, but he's big, he's athletic. He could go earlier than expected in the draft. Ryan Izzo was a bit of a surprise. I mean, he's a middling draft tight end. And then, of course, even had guys like Jalen Wilkerson, which he recorded 19 tackles last year. Like, it didn't make any sense for him to go pro. So FSU lost all the guys they expected to, plus some they didn't think were going to, and then one guy who no one saw coming.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to have a tough time turning around an awful season this year where they somehow got in a bowl game, although they weren't eligible apparently. But Derwin James is a huge loss. Guy who, I don't know, for me, never really lived up to the name recognition that he got. I don't know if I ever watched a Florida State game. I saw him as the super impact player that everyone seems to think he is. He'll do well in the NFL. But Florida State's going to have a tough time turning around. They really took a step back this year. A lot of turmoil there, new coach. We'll see what happens.
All right, our last draft deadline loser for you guys is Notre Dame, losing a lot of talent on the offensive side of the ball. And as you see there, some key defensive players stayed, but their defensive coordinator left.
So there's another loss there. And then you look at the offense that was built around a ground-focused attack with Josh Adams, Quentin Nelson, and Mike McGlinchey, who didn't declare early he was actually a senior. EQ St. Brown, their star receiver, leaves as well. They're going to have to rebuild their offense around Brandon Wimbush, who had some issues late in the year amidst some injuries. Notre Dame loses a ton of offensive talent. They could be in for a bit of a step back this year.
Yeah, and so their offense is losing a lot of players. Still, as of yesterday, was rumored that their offensive coordinator could be a candidate for the Alabama role. I wouldn't be surprised if he took it, if he is actually, the top candidate. So when Brian Kelly kind of reassessed his program after last season, went out, fired a bunch of coaches, brought in a new bunch of guys, and got the offense back on track. And I thought they were going to be very devastated at quarterback and running back. Had developed Adams, developed a quarterback this year, and to lose all these guys in a one-year turnaround, I think is going to put a kind of a damper on his kind of resurgence after an awful 2016 season. So Brian Kelly again is going to kind of have to reinvent himself with a new bunch of players and potentially an entirely new group of coaches on the offensive and defensive coordinator side.
All right, let's go ahead and recap who we had for our losers. So we had Texas, LSU, USC, Florida State, and Notre Dame. Just mentioned that they are losing a lot of talent on the offensive side of the ball. And in our draft deadline winners, we have Clemson, Ohio State, Stanford, Mizzou, and Washington.
Interesting group there. And I think you see the big key there for the last two teams. Quarterbacks. Drew Lock, Jake Browning return, as does Myles Gaskin.
And with the top two, Ohio State, Clemson, the rich are getting richer in that one. Those are two programs that have been devastated by early entry losses. Now they're retaining them. And I think those two teams have cemented themselves as in top three teams going in next season because of it.
Schools like Virginia Tech and Michigan State are like, come on, everyone just go pro. Give us a better shot.
Exactly, yep.